All right, guys, so we're going to do a quick QA video, and someone's working on this model. They're doing a cylinder with a couple extrusions that are beveled, but they're ending up with shading issues in the corners here. So we look at the topology, we can see what's going on. They have it, in fact, beveled, but there's these n-gons and these extra vertices here. So these are going to triangulate and create all kinds of weird interpolation shading issues, basically. And we need to fix those, right? Now, the best way to fix this is going to be to use a data transfer modifier. What you're doing with the data transfer modifier is going to transfer normal data. So you're doing custom normals, guys. That's what you're doing. Now, let's go ahead and recreate this thing real quick and kind of fly through this. This is a little bit more advanced territory. This is not something that you're going to be doing as a complete beginner using custom normals all over everything. But there will be times that you have to start doing this, so it's good to learn how to do it. And it takes some trial and error to figure out how to actually make it all work, but we'll get it going here. So I'm going to press E and X, extrude that out. There we go. And when we use a bevel modifier, you don't usually want this edge here like this. It's better to convert things back into an n-gon sometimes, so you can control X that, for example. Select these ones here, control X, and we'll be good to go. Just make sure there's no vertices left over. And all right, so what we're going to do is the bevel modifier. Adjust it like so, and usually you don't want to use 3 segments, which this artist has. You can see there's 2 additional verts. We don't have that right now. We have these kind of crazy corners, and these crazy corners will change when you set outer emitter to arc, and usually you want to use arc. In this case, now we have that exact matching topo. You can see there's already a little bit of a shading issue here. And one of the things you might want to do is go to Material Preview, clicking here or hitting Z, Material Preview. And you might want to give this a material, make it metallic, turn the roughness down. And that way we can find shading issues. So we can Z solid, Z material preview, and kind of use that to check for errors. And in our case, we haven't shaded this yet. So we right click, shade smooth, modifier panel. We're going to use a weighted normal modifier real quick. It's going to do something like this. Normally you'll check keep sharp's face influence for this modifier. In our case, it wouldn't help us at all because we're not using those, but you can see the shading issue here. And when we look at it with a glossy material or a metallic glossy in particular, we're going to start to find those distortions very fast. That's not going to work for us here. Okay. That's not what we want. Now, check this out though. When we use that bevel and we do 2 segments, it's still going to have the issue. It's not going to go away at all, right? It doesn't matter if we use 2, 3, 4, whatever, it's still going to be an issue. Even if we use 1, still an issue. Looks terrible, right? It's not as bad maybe, but all right, got that out of the way? Cool. Now, here's the thing. What if we had kept this at sharp? Like this, right? 2 segment. Okay. Usually you use this with 1 segment, but the main thing is that it actually shades correctly. That's the crazy part. Until you add like a loop cut right here. If you had needed an edge here for whatever reason, it's bad again. Okay. So like Blender has, when you're modeling in Blender and you're working with the shading, sometimes like little weird things like this pop up. And so learning how to use data transfer, while it's a little bit of a tedious process to set it up, you need to understand it fully, right? At some point or another. So, because you're going to run into these issues. In our case, we're going to leave it at arc. For a mid-poly model for games, I would probably not use more than a chamfer on something like this. I don't think it needs it. 2 segments isn't going to make it look any better than 1 segment for the most part. Unless you really need to do like a close-up on it for some reason, but then your cylinder is very low poly to begin with. So chamfers work with a weighted normal modifier like this. It's going to look more beveled because of it, right? But we have the shading issue, so we got to fix it now. You're going to have to apply your bevel modifier. Weighted normal doesn't matter yet, but you're going to want to apply your bevel modifier, or if you get this add-on, the modifier list add-on, it should be on extensions. So edit preferences, extensions, you can download it. And you're going to want to apply it, or you can use the edit mesh modifier. And this is for this add-on, right? What this does is it acts like you applied all your modifiers, and now you can go into edit mode and select these faces or these beveled or chamfered segments now. Okay. And this is good because now we can go through here and we can create vertex groups on this that we need to control the data transfer. And we'll do that in a second. I'm just going to kind of set it up. Let's go to weighted normal modifier. We would still do our typical weighted normal kind of setup workflow here. So add weighted normal. If we need to use face influence, we use it. If we need to set faces to strong, sometimes that corrects shading issues. In this case, it won't, but I just want to point it out. You can set them strong on the big faces usually. Sometimes that'll fix minor issues with shading. Otherwise, it might be your topology that has the actual issue. And in other cases like this, it might just be that you need to use a custom normal. So it's a little confusing, right? But it's not, as a beginner, you're not going to be sure which one you need to use when and where. You'll have to kind of trial and error all of those ideas. Now, for our case here, we got a weighted normal modifier, basically. And we're going to do a data transfer, right? And we're going to set this all up in a second, but that's all. The data transfer is great, but we need something to target, like the source of the normals that we want to use. And we went too far already. This happens commonly when working on models, right? You're wanting to create some kind of mid-poly game mesh. You started modeling it all out. You realize you have shading errors and you need to use custom normals or something. And while you could create a cylinder and make it the same size and lay it out in the same position, that's great. It's better to steal parts of your mesh a lot of times. So you want to just go into edit mode, select maybe this edge here, Shift D to duplicate it, right click, P, separate selection, go back to object mode, and then you'll grab this, or you can actually grab this one and press H. Then you can grab this one, go into edit mode, select the whole edge, press E and Y, extrude it out, G, Y, you can move it back a little bit. So it's like this. And so I'm just going to change the color here real quick. This is my little modifier I made, by the way. If you want to download it, it's on Gumroad. There's little instructions on how to set it up, but basically it's the object colors, which are usually under viewport display. I just got tired of going down there to get it, so that's all that is. Now, and you got to set it to object. Let's unhide that, but you can see what's going on here. Like basically they're close to matching, something like this. Just make sure this is shaded smooth. We don't need the side faces here, right? And you need to make sure the normals are in the right direction. So if you don't have backface culling on, you'll see something like this. If it's like this and it's backwards, you just A, Alt, N, flip normals, right? Send them back the other way. All right, so / to isolate like that, by the way. Now, we get to this point that we have this thing set up. We don't really have to like look at it while we're doing this. As long as it's shaded smooth, we know it's going to work. Sometimes you want to subdivide these, right? So control 1 through 5, you add a subdivision modifier. You might want to subdivide it. In our case, it doesn't really matter. It's not going to help anything. We don't need the weighted normal on it. We don't need the data transfer on it because it was made from the other object. We got to remove the modifiers possibly. Keep that in mind as well. And so, but we can hide it. Press H. We're going to use that to control this one. So eyedropper, we can actually pick it off the outliner, or we could have selected it in the viewport. And we're going to do face corner data. Okay, we're going to do a custom normal, and it's going to do this. All right, so it's already copying the normals over, but it's doing it all over the whole mesh, and we only had a little cylinder. So we need to tell it to do it with only these faces here. So we go into edit mode, and this is why you have to apply this, right? Apply this, originally apply the bevel anyways, is because you only want to work with these vertices here, okay? Up to this point. And so we're going to select all of this, use the cursor selector with C, left click them, right click to get out of it, C to select, middle mouse to deselect, mouse wheel up and down to make it bigger or smaller. And we can get through here rather rapidly doing that. Now we can press Control G and assign that to a vertex group. If we hit Control G again, we have a little menu options have changed here. Our active group is the group. We can add to it or remove from it. Just remember, object panel down here, object data properties or whatever. You can create multiple vertex groups by accident, or you might need it on your models. Whatever is selected is your active group. Okay, just keep that in mind. You just need one for now. And you can assign or unassign things from it, right? If you unselect everything, you select your group and you click select, and it selects what you want it to select. That's your vertex group anyways, right? So boom. All those vertices are in the group. Good. We know how to use that now. Great. Okay. We move to modifier panel. Back to the modifier. We're going to limit this down here at the bottom. Click. Vertex group is right there. You can give it a name if you want. You can rename them. And that's it. If you ever have to invert these, a lot of the other modifiers do this. You invert it right here. So, boom. Just like that. Now, it looks great, right? Like, we can see the difference here already. If we turn it on and off. Man, it looks so much better. But it's wrong still. Just slightly, but it's wrong. So if we go to material preview, that metallic material, it'll show that error a lot quicker. You can see there's just a little slight strange triangulation thing happening here. Okay, so there's different little settings here we can utilize. Now you can just kind of go through these as you're doing a data transfer and see what works best for you. But a lot of times the default setting works pretty well, but also projected works well. So you can use projected in this case, and you see it changes slightly, and now it's looking a lot more appropriate. Okay, and you can see how that works out. So that's going to correct that shading issue. You are pretty much done at this point. You don't have to really worry about it too much. You can see it is shading pretty well. Okay, a little bit of an issue that's a shadow. Don't worry about that. But all right, now one more thing I want to talk about. When you're sending this to something like Substance Painter, Unreal Engine, or any other software for that matter, you're going to see a lot of tutorials or guys that work with game art in general. They're going to use Ngon models and they're going to triangulate them. And you have to triangulate modifier, right? Make sure you always check keep normals. It's super useful. On top of that, if we had kept this, like certain add-ons like hard ops, if you had a triangulate modifier, or you watch certain tutorials, they'll say use 5 count for the vertices there. So what that's going to do is it's going to turn anything with 5 or more vertices for a single face into triangles. And that means Ngons, basically, right? The quads will remain quads. The triangles will remain, obviously, triangles. But all the Ngons turn into triangles, which this seems like a really good idea at first, but there's a little bit of an issue with this, all right? I wanted to point this out as well in this video. The big issue with this one is that when we toggle it back to the default setting there, you see everything change slightly? Okay. Sometimes this is more apparent in some areas than others. And it might not do it much at all sometimes. So I might not be able to find a little area that it does this. Okay. It kind of does it on this face a little bit. But the main idea is that when your mesh has quads and it goes into Substance Painter is going to retriangulate the quads, basically. And when you're doing like a high to low poly bake, possibly, it can bake into the normal maps. And then so when you take it over to Unreal Engine and you bring a quad face into Unreal Engine as well, and then it's going to triangulate it in a different manner. And now you're going to have your normal maps with a certain type of triangulation in it, tangents. And then Unreal Engine is going to have a different triangulation setup, and Blender has a different triangulation setup, possibly going on, right? So it's not going to look right in all 3 of them. This is why I just wanted to point out the triangulate modifier. If you ever see someone saying use 5, don't. Break it all the way back down, okay? This is what you're going to want to do. Break it all the way down, and when we toggle it on and off, you'll notice that it is in fact changing the triangulation here, right? That's why we get these little weird shading changes on these edges usually, and other places it'll happen as well. All right, there's nothing you can do about that. It's going to happen, but you want to make sure it is happening and everything is triangulated. Now you can try other little things here, like using beauty perhaps, or doing fixed. And fixed is going to make them all run in one direction, or try to anyways. And then fixed, fixed. I just call it like fixed inverted, but it's the fixed alternate, right? And so fixed alternates opposite direction. Sometimes these ones will create errors depending on the model, so just be careful with that one. Shortest diagonal typically works the best in my opinion. And then you can try the other ones as well. But the main thing here is that you use triangulation, you get it going, something like so. It should look right. And you want to check keep normals. You should be, that's golden right there, right? Like that's kind of the whole process to get something prepped to go to Painter or into Unreal and not have any issues left over. Now, the modifier itself compared to Blender, when this mesh is not triangulated, like at the end of the day, everything still has triangles in it. Like there's a triangle somewhere in here that's generated right now. But when we add the triangulate modifier, it doesn't match what we already see in the viewport. So we do see that shading flickering or it's changing, right? It's very rare, or it actually, I wouldn't go around adjusting that a whole lot manually. Like when using custom normals with data transfers, it becomes a little bit of a nightmare scenario. But I'm going to show you a little trick on how to do this one, okay? And that is that when you have a mesh like this, and let's say for whatever reason you have to flip some of these triangles around manually, you would want to duplicate this mesh. You would hide one of them, right? And in our case, we can just use a new edit mesh modifier. And we should be able to add a weighted, or excuse me, a data transfer modifier. And we would want to target our old mesh, which I'm guessing was cylinder 02, but maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, it is okay. And we'll set it up, custom normal data. We'll do projected. Actually, we could use this one. It should be fun. We don't need a vertex group if we're doing the whole thing. If this doesn't work for whatever reason, we might have to go to geometry data and clear this, okay? And now, if we go into edit mode, we should be able to rotate these around so that little area that, like maybe we like this triangle going the other way, we should be able to rotate it around. And the normals should remain, basically, right? So kind of a cool thing you can do if you ever need to do that. There's gonna be, this happens. I know it's annoying, but it does happen time to time. So if you ever need that as a way of fixing triangulation shading issues, because sometimes things just look really wrong in certain directions, that transfer is a better option. The vertices don't change position, just the edge, right? As a result, you get a different triangulation kind of look in those little areas like that. Some might look better than others. And some things are wrong. Like this is not correct here. This is a terrible triangulation. Trying to fix that one would be real fun as well. I would probably grab this whole area. That's very unoptimized, I would say. And control exit, and then control T it, and see if I can't try a different solution in here that would work better. Okay, that's better, actually. Do shortest diagonal and clip it, I guess. Just make sure it's going to work for you. This is actually one of the more optimal ways of doing triangulation. Where it creates less faces and or less triangles, and it actually is more optimal, basically. There's a little technical breakdown somewhere that I found online that was explaining why that's the best way of doing it. I didn't ever know that, so I mean, I learned something new all the time. But basically, if you need that kind of solution, that might be how you do that, right? Like sometimes you just got to go, make a low poly or mid poly model that you can, as like a unoptimized base mesh that you can work with, and then later on you can just go through and fine tweak it if you really needed to, because you can see that's not new normals, it's the same ones. They're just transferred over to this one, so we can kind of keep working on it basically, right? As long as we don't change the vertices and where they're positioned and all that. So yeah, pretty advanced stuff, but ultimately, if you can avoid doing this kind of thing, it's better to do that. It's not always possible, but it's generally a lot better. Now, I know somebody's going to ask, or maybe I've mentioned it in a previous video, where you can create custom normals by using the normals panel here, Alt-N, and doing rotates and points to targets and all this fun stuff to create custom normals. Look, right now, as of this version of Blender 4.4.3, those menus are still very bugged. They were bugged in 3.6. I feel like they're more bugged now, but maybe they aren't. Who knows? They tend to get weird, like alignment issues sometimes, or like the settings get stuck and things like that. So I'm not going to cover that right now. Maybe Blender will fix those things at some point, but they're usually pretty useful, right? And you'll want to experiment with the idea of like using the Alt-N panel and learning about that as well. It might be like you don't always need data transfers for everything. Sometimes, like if you're doing foliage or vegetation, and you just need to like create like a spherized kind of custom normal, you can do that there if you need to. But yeah, once you have like full control over these, using data transfer, meshes, vertex groups, all that, it's a tedious process. Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it, but it's kind of like once you know it, and as you use it a few times over, it's not a big issue anymore. It's the same settings you use. It's the same little button ticks. It's just like a number of little setups there that you got to tick and check. And there's definitely more that this modifier can do. Obviously, you can transfer like UVs and UV seams and all kinds of other fun stuff. It's pretty wild actually. It's a pretty cool modifier. Anyways, so that's how you're gonna get clean shaded model like that. You'd have to do the other side as well. Well, actually, not really, because we did the center, didn't we? But like if you had an extrusion coming out here, you would set it up very similar. You just still select all the same faces, basically. All right. Yep. So that's the QA video, guys. Hope you enjoyed this one. I'll check you out next one. Take care.